Two people buy the exact same car, same make, same model, same color, driven off the same lot on the same afternoon. 10 years from now, one of them will be almost $40,000 richer than the other. Nothing about the car will have changed. The only difference was a single decision each of them made before they ever turned the key. One of them leased, the other bought. And the gap between those two words is far wider than the showroom ever lets you see. Here is what makes this decision so slippery. On the day you sign, leasing almost always feels smarter. The monthly payment is lower. The car is newer. You get a fresh one every few years, always under warranty, always smelling new. Buying, by comparison, feels heavy. Bigger payments, an older car eventually, repairs somewhere down the road. So most people set the two numbers side by side, see the smaller one, and walk out feeling like they made the responsible choice. That feeling is exactly the trap, because the real cost of a car is not the number on your monthly statement. It is the total amount of money that leaves your life over all the years you drive, minus whatever you still own at the end. And on that scoreboard, the whole story flips. Let's decode the machine first, because a car is a strange thing to own. The moment you drive a new one off the lot, it starts losing value. This is called depreciation, which simply means the drop in what something is worth as time passes. A new car is one of the fastest depreciating things a normal person will ever buy. Industry data shows a typical new car sheds around 20% of its value in the first year alone and close to 60% within 5 years. A $35,000 car can be worth around $14,000 by the time it turns 5. That lost value is not imaginary. It is real money evaporating off the hood, and someone always ends up paying for it. Now watch how each path handles that loss, because this is where the two roads split. When you lease, you are essentially renting the car for a few years. The dealer takes the price of the car, subtracts what they expect it to still be worth when you give it back, and makes you pay the difference over your term. That leftover value at the end has a name, the residual value, which just means what the car is predicted to be worth when the lease is up. So a lease payment is really you covering the exact slice of depreciation that happens while the car is in your driveway, plus a hidden charge for interest, and then you hand the keys back and own nothing at all. That interest is buried inside a small decimal the industry calls the money factor. It looks harmless, something like 0.0015, and almost nobody converts it. But multiply that money factor by 2,400 and you get the true annual interest rate you are paying. Dealers rarely walk you through that because the entire pitch leans on one thing you do feel, the low monthly payment, and one thing you never see, the fact that you are financing the single steepest part of a car's value drop and keeping absolutely none of it. When you buy, the math is upside down at first, and this is the part that fools people. You take on the depreciation too, and in the early years, it stings even more, because you own the whole car while it is losing value fastest. But you are quietly building something the leaser never gets. It is called equity, which just means the portion of the car you actually own free and clear. There is also a term for the real price you finance when you buy, the capitalized cost, the full amount rolled into your loan. Every payment you make grinds that number down and turns the car, dollar by dollar, from a bill you owe into an asset you hold. The leaser's payment buys access. The buyer's payment buys ownership. Same looking payment, opposite destinations. This is the moment behavioral economics walks into the room. The economist Richard Thaler won a Nobel Prize for showing how ordinary people quietly deceive themselves with money, and one of his central ideas is mental accounting. The habit of judging a purchase by one small mental slot instead of the whole picture. A lease payment slides neatly into the slot marked small and manageable. It starts to feel like a utility bill, like the electricity, something that simply exists and always will. And because it feels small, it never triggers the question that actually decides your wealth. Not how much is this each month, but how much of my life's money is this quietly taking, and what will I be holding when it is finally over? The entire car selling industry is engineered to keep your eyes on the monthly slot and off the total. See that clearly, and you have already seen through most of the sales floor. There is a second piece of psychology underneath it too. The thrill of a new car fades faster than almost anyone expects. Researchers who study happiness call it hedonic adaptation, the way we adjust to a new pleasure until it feels ordinary. That intoxicating new car feeling is real, but it wears off within months, whether you leased it or bought it. The leaser chases that feeling on a permanent loop, paying for it again and again. The buyer feels it once, lets it settle into a car that simply works, and keeps the money the chase would have cost. So, let's run the two lives forward, side by side, the way only real math can show you. Picture two drivers, both starting today with the same $35,000 car. The first driver leases. Her payment is lower, say around $450 a month, and honestly, it feels great. But her lease ends in 3 years, and she has nothing to show for it, so she leases again. And then again. 3 years, new car, new lease. She is comfortable. She is always in something fresh and under warranty, and she will make that payment every single month for as long as she owns a car, which is to say, for the rest of her driving life. There is no finish line anywhere on her road. The payment is not a stage she passes through on the way to owning something. It is the permanent, unending price of access. The second driver buys the same car with a 5-year loan. His payment is higher, closer to $600 a month, and for those first 5 years, his life genuinely feels tighter than hers. This is the stretch that fools everyone, because for half a decade the leaser looks like the smart one. But then something happens that the showroom never puts on the brochure. In year 6, his loan ends. His payment does not shrink, it vanishes. He now owns the entire car outright, and a well-kept car does not quit the day the loan does. It runs for years more. So while the leaser is still handing over $450 every month into a machine that gives her nothing to keep, he is driving the same reliable car for a payment of exactly zero. And here is the move that blows the gap wide open. That $600 a month he used to send to the lender does not disappear from his budget. He can now aim it somewhere that pays him back instead of somewhere that drains him. This is where one more term earns its place: opportunity cost, which means the value of what you gave up by spending money on one thing instead of another. Every lease payment carries a silent opportunity cost, because that same money invested instead could have been growing all along. Take just the $450 a month the leaser spends forever, and imagine it invested rather than leased. At the roughly 7% average yearly return, the broad stock market has delivered over the long run after inflation. $450 a month grows into nearly $78,000 in about 10 years. The leaser drove a pleasant series of new cars. The buyer drove one paid-off car and quietly built a small fortune out of the difference. This is not a magic trick of clever budgeting. It is the same reason the LAA driving cost studies put the true all-in cost of a new car at well over $12,000 a year, once you fold in depreciation, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and fees. A car is one of the largest ongoing expenses in most people's entire lives. The leaser signs up to pay near the top of that range permanently, with no exit. The buyer pays hard for a few years and then steps off the treadmill completely and starts running the meter in reverse. It is worth noticing who tends to stand on each side of this. Some of the wealthiest, most disciplined investors alive are famously uninterested in new cars. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people on earth, has spoken openly about driving ordinary cars for many years and seeing little reason to keep upgrading them. That is not because he cannot afford anything he wants. It is because he understands, better than almost anyone who has ever lived, what a single dollar, left alone to compound over decades, is truly worth. He simply refuses to trade a growing asset for a shrinking one in order to feel new for a few months. Now, does this mean leasing is always the wrong answer for every person alive? No, and honest math never pretends otherwise. There are people for whom a lease genuinely fits. If you run a business and can legitimately write the cost off against your taxes, if you need a reliable vehicle for only a short and fixed window, if you truly place a high value on driving something new every few years and you choose to pay for that comfort with your eyes fully open, then leasing can be a perfectly rational decision. The point was never that one option is noble and the other is foolish. The point is that the choice should be made on the full number, not the monthly one. The real tragedy is not the person who leases knowing exactly what they are trading. It is the person who leases believing they saved money when the total was quietly saying the opposite the entire time. So look one more time at those two drivers. 10 years on, they drove the same car off the same lot on the same afternoon. One of them chased the smaller number on the page and paid it faithfully into a machine that handed her nothing back. The other swallowed a harder few years, reached the far side of the loan, and turned the leftover payments into something that grew while he slept. The car was never the real decision. The real decision was always what you chose to do with the money the car was standing in front of. The next time a salesperson slides a monthly payment across the desk and asks whether it fits your budget, you will know to ask the only question that actually counts. Not what does this cost me each month, but over the whole road ahead, what will this leave in my hands? Answer that one honestly, and the math will quietly tell you which driver you want to be.